Hey, what's up, guys? Today I decided to do a review on the Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 1 um, trade. Um, this came out in August 23rd of 2016. I actually got it on the day that it came out. I waited. I didn't read any of the other comics because I wanted to wait till I got the trade edition. And yeah, I've read this 3 times since I've gotten it. I kept wanting to do a review on this, but I kind of just been lazy about it and putting it off. But I finally decided to get around to doing it. Um, yeah, so the author is James Tinian. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, and the artist is Freddie E. Williams. The publishers are IDW, who, as you guys know, are famous for their pop culture comics. Um, Featuring a lot of our like 80s and early 90s cartoons, and DC Comics. Yeah, so let's get into the writing right away. Um, First, a little bit. I want to give you guys a warning. I'm probably going to go into spoilers. I don't mean to, but it's kind of like the nature of the review. I kind of want to go into depth about it. So the only way I can do that is by giving some details. I'll try not to give too many, but yeah, I warn you now. Okay. So a little bit of the plot overview. The plot kind of centers a lot on elements of both the Dark Knight Rises plotline and a little bit of the Ninja Turtle, the first Ninja Turtles movie, but we'll get a little bit into that. Okay, so the overall premise of the comic is the turtles have been transported into Gotham, and they're trying to figure out a way to get back home, to their reality, to their universe, and yeah, so they're kind of hiding out and just waiting for a way to do that. Now, something gets introduced into the plot where we start realizing that because of the chemical components of Batman, the DC Universe reality, the turtles are starting to degrade back into their animal form because the mutagen, which is in their blood stream, can't can't hold itself together in Batman's reality, right? In the DC universe. Now, I will say really quick, this is not in canon. I believe it's not in canon. It's definitely not in canon for Batman, and it's not in canon for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So this is kind of like it's a what if comic, but what ifs are great. You know, that's a lot of the times what fan fiction builds out of, right? So yeah, the what if is great. I will say, so yeah, it ends up becoming this thing of Batman helping the turtles to get back to their reality before the turtles die, right? Or just revert back to regular turtles, right? Animals. They revert back to animals. The quality of the writing is surprisingly good for one of these crossover events. But of course, it's the IDW and it's DC, so you kind of expect that it's going to be good quality. But yeah, I was kind of like really thrown back at how good the quality of the writing is. It's suspenseful, it's action packed, which is something that you expect a lot from something that's going to have Batman and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, both of those characters tend to have a lot of these martial arts qualities to them, right? So yeah, the quality of the writing is really good. It's very refined, it's action packed, and yeah, and it's a lot of fun, right? The characterizations, that's where I think the comic shines. The comic shines in its characterization of Batman and the Turtles. Um, because a lot, see, with this crossover event, what they could have just done is focused on just two martial artists, right? Two groups of martial artists. The Ninja Turtles are martial artists, Batman's a martial artist, that's all there is to it. But they decided to go a different route to it. They decided to focus on the fact that the Ninja Turtles have this element of fun to them and that they're teenagers, so ultimately they're kids, right? And Batman tends, they focused on Batman's brooding and his dark and his solitude. So they become almost complete opposites of each other. Batman's the dark figure that's in isolation, and they kind of like play into that with the fact that a lot of the story takes place in the anniversary of his parents' death. So he's the figure that lost his family. And then the turtles are this family that's afraid of losing their family, and it works because we see that it kind of plays into the core of each character, of each group of characters, in that Batman is a hero because he lost his family, and the turtles are heroes because they rely and want to protect their families. It's their brothers and their father. They want to protect each other, and that love makes them protect the city, makes them protect New York. Whereas Batman is in isolation, and he doesn't want anyone else to lose their family or to go through what he went through. And yeah, it plays nicely, and that ultimately becomes the keystone on what brings the two together. And it's a really cool approach to this crossover event, right? It's a really good way. If I were to say any limitations to the plot, um, I think it does borrow heavily from The Dark Knight Rises. Have Ra's al Ghul, the League of Assassins, and again, they have a device that they're gonna use to destroy Gotham, to get rid um, of all corrupt individuals, right? So it borrows that storyline again from Dark Knight Rises and the Batman comics, and it kind of repeats it, but just inserts the turtles into different areas of it. That was a little bit, you know, I felt like they probably could have done something a little more interesting than that, but it doesn't really hurt the plot because overall the moral of the comic kind of makes up for it, and it's a cool thing, right? Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the characterization of each. I think Batman is done very well in this. He's not one dimensional, which is good. You know, we see his interaction with Alfred, we see his interaction with Robin, and we kind of see how he struggles between his realization that he had a family, his mom and dad that died, and his new family, which is Robin and Alfred, right? And kind of the turtles bring that out on him. The turtles, I would say that the turtles, they took a lot of their personality from the way the new movies characterize them, and I have absolutely no problem with that. I know that a lot of people do not like the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies, but personally I like the way they characterize the turtles in those movies. I like seeing their individual personalities. I like seeing that Donnie's the geek. I like seeing that Leo's the calm leader. I like seeing Raph, kind of be the angry one, and that he likes to isolate himself because later on in the comic that does play in with Batman's sense of isolation. It's a really smart thing to do. And then Mikey's the fun one, and in a lot of ways Mikey's the oddball out in this, right? And Mikey works to highlight that need for fun in even the darkest of people, right? Batman and Raph to some extent, right? But Raph is more used to seeing Mikey around, right? Shredder is in it. Shredder is what we expect of Shredder. I think a lot of times Shredder gets he gets like made into this one-dimensional character. Um, we get more of it when we get into his background in other comics, but in this he's kind of like his one-dimensional character, and I guess that's necessary for the storyline and kind of like to not too much happen. But then what's cool about it is they have Ra's al Ghul. So Ra's al Ghul is kind of the more refined Shredder. It's like, and it works. You know, we see that Batman with the League of Assassins and the Turtles with the Foot Clan kind of are dealing with similar problems. And again, that works to kind of unify the two aesthetics of the Turtles universe and Batman's universe. And it's a really good, it's a good play on characters and the choice of characters in this comic. And I will say like that it's even apparent from the get-go, whereas the first Turtles villains that we see are the Foot Clan, which mirrors a lot of the League of Assassins, right? Kind of these nameless, faceless ninjas, right? Um, but then they tie it in. So they start off very much grounded in the Turtles' reality, but then the first um, member of Batman's Rogue Gallery that we see is Killer Croc, and that works perfect because here we have a character who very much embodies a lot of the aesthetics of the Turtles. He's an animal. He lives in the sewer. He's a villain, which is the Turtles are heroes, but it starts to ground the Turtles into Batman's reality. We see that, okay, it's not that outlandish to have these 4 teenage turtles as heroes because we have Killer Croc, who, for all purposes, is a crocodile living in the sewers of Gotham City. So it works really good. I really like that. I got excited when I saw Killer Croc as the first character. We also get some other appearances from other of Batman's rogue galleries. We get a lot of the Penguin in this, which I think is smart because we get a lot of the Penguin from the beginning, and then by the end, where we see what ends up happening to the Penguin, it's funny. It just becomes really, really funny because the Penguin kind of like is symbolic of how the story like evolves into being like a turtle story, because we see the Penguin go from being in his human penguin form into ultimately being uh anthropomorphized penguin. It's really cool. He's like, an actual penguin at the end, right? So yeah, we also get the Joker in this. A very minor appearance by the Joker. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I do like what they end up doing. Like I said, we get the Penguin, and towards the end, he becomes an actual penguin. And they do this with all of Batman's Rogue Gallery, which is so awesome because you're reading the comic book and you did the whole story with the mutagen and whatever, and then ultimately you get to the end of it, and all of Batman's rogue galleries gets turned into animals, right? So they ultimately, Batman's villains become Ninja Turtle villains, and it's so cool to see. And then like there's a 2-page spread on it where you have all of the Arkham inmates, and I every time I just like to open to that page and start identifying. Oh, there's the Joker. He's a freaking Viper. Here's the Penguin's a penguin, and it's really funny. It's a really cool thing that they did to it was kind of like a very fun moment in the comic. A little bit about the artwork. The artwork is very much like amalgamation of the two styles, the two aesthetics that we get from Batman and the Turtles, and it works really nicely. We know Batman's Batman, and they don't change too much about Batman, and we know the Turtles are the Turtles. They don't change too much, but they work together visually. It works really good. And again, that the whole moral or theme of intensity versus playfulness, right? So the Batman's intensity with the Turtles' playfulness, those two things, it's not only apparent in the writing, but it's really apparent in the artwork. Because we'll get there's this one scene when the Turtles first enter the Batcave, and Batman has all the accoutrements that we normally think of when we think of the Batcave, the big T-Rex and the giant penny and whatever, and just like kids would do when they see all these cool, like if we were in the Batcave and we saw all this stuff, we would flip out. Right? So the Turtles kind of do the same thing, and like Mikey takes the charge of that, and he's just like, well, I am not leaving this cave until I ride that T-Rex. And it's a fun moment, and it brings this light airiness to the whole Bat Cave. So it makes you glad that the Turtles are in there. It makes you glad that the Turtles were able to see the Bat Cave, because they react to Batman in a lot of the same ways that we as fans of Batman would react to Batman. It was really cool. I really appreciated that a lot. And yeah, the artwork is great. I flip through it all the time just to look at things that I always wished I would see on a page and that I finally got to see. So yeah, so the writing's good, the characterization's good, the artwork is phenomenal. Now a little bit about the relevance of the comic. I'm a little disappointed that it's not in canon. I mean, I understand why they did that, because You know, if they made this in canon, because from what I gather from it is it's not in canon, right? It's not part of the actual Batman universe, and it's not part of the Ninja Turtles universe. But I understand why, because they kind of have this ongoing narrative of the realization of these two realities, and you know, how does that change Batman permanently? Because I mean, come on, you're Batman, you meet these teenage turtles, and they affect you so much in your view of family. That's gonna, you know, you would imagine it to have a lasting effect on Batman. So because, you know, of that, they kind of, it's not part of canon, but it's still a lot of fun to read. I'll say, like, it's fun, right? So yeah, overall, I think that this is a really good comic. I highly recommend it. I really do that they do. I really hope that they do another crossover of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman again. Um, I I Speaking of those kind of crossovers, as we know, we're getting a Justice League Power Rangers crossover, and I really hope that it is to this standard, because that shows the way that these crossovers can have fun with these two complementary yet totally different types of characters, right? I hope to see a lot of the similar things in the Power Rangers Justice League crossover. I hope that we see how it's these teenagers with powers, but that they don't always have the powers, and whatever contrast with the Justice League, who are older, more experienced, probably better organized. You know, I want to see how those two things work together. I think it'll be a really cool thing, and yeah, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend this Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles crossover comic. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.